Welcome to Mixology, the intersection of customer education and customer marketing. I'm Kristine Kukich, and along with Shannon Howard, we'll talk about how customer education and customer marketing are the scale engines of customer success. Glad you could join us. Mixology is more commonly associated with bartenders and good conversations with friends and colleagues. That's what we want to do here, is have good conversations. So in each session, we'll introduce a mixed concoction for you to enjoy as you listen in. This session is the French 75, in celebration of the new year and our new vlog. For equipment, you'll need a cocktail shaker, a juicer, a strainer, a jigger to measure the ingredients, and a champagne flute for the final product. Ingredients for the French 75 are pretty simple: gin, simple syrup, lemon juice, and champagne. Place some ice in the shaker with 1.5 ounces of gin. Add in a half an ounce of simple syrup and a half an ounce of lemon juice. Shake it all up. Pour it in the champagne glass and then top it off with the champagne. Then get ready for the conversation. Hi, I am Kristine Kukich. I am currently Senior Marketing Director for Customer Marketing at Thought Industries. And gosh, it's probably been almost a year that we started having conversations. Shannon's going to introduce herself here in a minute, but I came at this from customer education, 15 years in customer education, and moved into customer marketing in 2022. And that brought me to a thought process that we're going to tackle in our conversations that we have through this next however long we have these conversations for. And we started really talking earlier last year, I think, about how the customer education and customer marketing go together. And there's so much overlap and so many things that we should be doing together that I don't know that we always do. So that's where we go. Shannon, where did you come from? What's going on? What do you think about what I just said?
Yeah, so I'm Shannon Howard. I'm currently the customer marketing manager at People Growth. And I come, I guess, from the customer experience and marketing background, a lot of retention, engagement, life cycle. Also worked in curriculum development and customer education. So I think kind of naturally wove that into what I was doing with customer marketing. And so as I started learning more about the field of customer education and combining that with my experience as a customer marketer, and when we were talking, it just seemed like these are two departments that should be really closely intertwined, that provide immense value to the business. And like we just need to have more conversations about them. Yeah, so I guess that's where I'm coming from is I love to learn. I also think, I just love that with customer education, you give people an opportunity to learn kind of in context on the job. It's super approachable, and that, as a marketer, I just love education as part of that, like customer journey, customer experience part of marketing, because too much marketing is a little bit spray and pray and external broadcast, and it should be more of this educational, nurturing, conversational type relationship.
And I think we get a chance to target better, right? When we combine them together, I think we can laser focus in ways that we can't if we're doing either of them in a very general way.
For sure. Yeah, I think they play off of each other. I think a lot of the customer education feeds the goals, the machine of customer marketing. But if you don't have marketing involved with customer education, you could have some really great training or really great resource that doesn't ever touch the customer, because you need someone kind of bringing that into the life cycle and serving it up to the customer at the right time.
Which leads us into our first topic of discussion, which is, how do they go together? What makes them such a natural fit? And we started that, right, just in the conversation that we had in the intro. So you go first. Tell me how you think they blend so well together.
Should we maybe start by talking about what is customer education, or how would we define customer education versus customer marketing?
Yeah, let's start there. Let me bring up the
We both
slide.
We both prepared for this. We were like, we have thoughts.
In the deck, I did this slide earlier on just as a way to talk about the fact that they go together, right? That they kind of belong. And where did it go? Here it is. Right. So we've got that experience as a starting point. Where's my show and tell? We'll just make it bigger. There we go. So it was just a way to say that, like, if we're talking broadly about customer experience, these are kind of the categories that we have, right? We get customer success, who gets a lot of the focus most of the time on this side. And then there's the two that we're talking about, customer education and customer marketing. And then the kind of completers of all of this, the customer support or technical support, again, names don't really matter, function does, and professional services. And sometimes customer education is in professional services, and sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's a part of customer success or support. The same is true of customer marketing. It doesn't always house in the experience side. It may house in the actual marketing side. Mine does right now.
Yeah, same here.
And then underneath it, you know, the little pieces that all go together.
Yeah, common activities.
Right. So that was my starting point when I was thinking, if I could pick an ideal world, I kind of think it would look like this.
Mm-hmm.
How far off do you think it is? I think it makes sense.
I think it makes sense. Yeah, I guess one of the words that came to mind with education, because we were talking about CS gets a lot of the spotlight. And I think customer education often codifies the knowledge of customer success and then uses that to scale training. And I think what I love about our customer education partners is they're thinking there's a behavior change or a mindset change that needs to happen. How do I help them get there? And thinking through that mindset of how do I how do I help someone move toward change? And then with customer marketing, I think it's a lot of operationalizing to get to that scale of how do we operationalize that training or education, those resources that customer education is creating, those things that customer success is doing, and then use that to market to our customers or communicate with our customers at scale. So I think they have to work together. Customer marketing, we did this internally at People Grove because I started at the same time as our customer education person. And we wanted to figure out, you know, there's obviously a lot of overlap. What are those lines of delineation? And we talked about customer marketing thinking more, what is the value that the company provides, that the product provides? How can we highlight customer successes and what our customers are doing with our product? And then customer education is saying, well, how do you do this? And how do you implement this? Or even on a topical level, even if it's not like using the product, those things that are related to. So our product is for career access. So how do we not only help them use our product, but how do you create a mentorship program? How do you recruit mentors? How do you facilitate that? How do you gather feedback and use that to make a better mentorship program? We could talk about those topical things. And then as a customer marketer, I'm like, that's some great content. How do I get that to my customer? So they see we're here to support you throughout your entire journey. So I guess, yeah, those terms that came to mind, both are functions of scale. One is a kind of knowledge. The other one is an operationalizing of experience.
And I think that's the key, right? I think that at scale is where they really shine together, because we get that opportunity to deal with the one-to-many part of it, right? The success teams, the support teams, the professional services teams, anything that is repetitive in nature really needs to funnel back to customer education and or customer marketing, right? Because it's either training, right? It's either product related or functionally related to the transaction, right? It could be the thought processes behind it, right? The examples of why are we going to do X? And then, of course, the steps on how to do X, given whatever you're working with for product. But the marketing part of it is the lead up to a lot of that too, right? So we've got the information that everybody needs to understand why this is going to be important, when it's going to happen, what it looks like in terms of structure. And then we let customer education tackle the delivery of that content. So I might be coordinating the advertising of the courses to the audience, while my cohorts in customer education are doing the delivery of that content, particularly if it's public, right? If we're dealing with public calendars and public schedules and all of the public side of customer education, not just the private side, which is also something different. I mean, I think that's another discussion for future activities, is what happens between public and private.
Oh yeah. Yeah. You have here onboarding, and I was thinking, I joke as a customer marketer, there's not an onboarding nurture I haven't touched, I said, onboarding nurtures to me are new websites to VPs of marketing. Like, you have a new marketing leader come in and, like, guaranteed you're going to have a new website. And I think usually people are coming to me saying, like, how do we make this better? And when I think about it, you have to have that education content, and you have to have that education mindset like that. I think the big difference is behavior change. Like, how do we actually lead people to that and educate people? That's a different mindset than just creating content, like marketing content. And so I think that has to be a part of the onboarding. But I know I've approached a lot of onboarding when you were saying we're kind of those repetitive things. I'm asking, what are those frequently asked questions? What are the articles that you constantly send to people? What are the things that you wish people knew earlier on in their journey that would help to set them up for success later on down the road? And then I'm bringing some structure to that, and then putting in some language too, thinking about, well, how do I reinforce their decision, and how do I help them to see the value and be motivated toward the future? And I'm thinking that's how I'm writing these emails, from that marketing perspective. But then I'm pulling in these great resources that customer education folks have created that will help them kind of take those next steps or learn how to do whatever it is.
And I think that's the second part of it, right? It's the actions, right? We're doing call to action frequently when we think about it from the marketing side, but also we're leveraging all of the functionally specific activities that happen either in education, in support, or through services, so that we're not letting customer success be training, right? I'm really focused on the thought that customer success needs to be a strategic partner in the success of the customer. That's right. That's, for me, that's their value. And if they are spending all of their time talking about the activities that are out there and available, talking about the thought leadership in the industry, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but again, could be repetitive. Why should I be having that same conversation with 25 or, heaven forbid, 50 different clients at the same time, or in their life cycle anyway, at the same time in their life cycle? Or the construct that we have for those FAQs, right? Again, everybody has the same question. Why are we not addressing that question in a forum where we can touch so many more people more quickly than a weekly call, a biweekly call, a monthly call with a CSM?
Yeah.
Right. Or just exclusive to implementation if it's part of services, right? I think that's the big deal for us, is that we're really trying to put all of this information in such a way that we can disseminate it to a wider audience more quickly.
And then allowing those one-to-one relationships to fill the gaps. Or I don't imagine that every person that I send an onboarding nurture to is going to read everything, watch every video, click through to every help article. And that's where that one-to-one relationship can come in, is they can remind them of those things, or they can answer questions. And I know I say this to people about, especially products where there's a lot of nuance with your customers. You have to create content that works for 80% of people. There's always going to be nuance. We can't let nuance be a reason that we don't create a nurture, or we don't create an onboarding We don't create educational materials. We just cover the broadest use cases. And then we allow those one-on-one relationships to speak to the nuance of, okay, well, what does that look like for you particularly? Well, we can talk through that, but let's give you that baseline understanding of whatever it is that your product does or whatever problem they're trying to solve first. You have to have that before you can get to the nuance point. And I think that's a big blocker I think I see for a lot of customer education and customer marketing folks is waiting to have the perfect nitty gritty, I'm answering everybody's question.
Right.
And you really have to be comfortable putting out something that's going to work for the majority of people, and then be comfortable with them having questions. Hey, I read this article, but I'm not really certain about whatever. Like, every question is an opportunity to have a conversation and build a customer relationship. I'm so not afraid of questions. I want them because that's where the conversation continues. But I want to be able to proactively, I remember in onboarding nurture that it was an astronomical number of support tickets were asking the same question. There was a help article for it, but people were just confused by it. So we went and we talked to some people. We updated the help article to put it in a little bit more layman's terms. And then we made that part of the onboarding sequence is, hey, let's answer. You probably have this question. Most people do. Here's the answer. Here's where you can learn more about it. And that helped to decrease the number of people reaching out, asking the same question that had the same answer over and over and over again. And then also, I think when you do that, you're also telling the customer, we've been doing this for a while. We know what you're going to ask. We know what questions you have, and we're kind of proactively. And I think that does a lot to build confidence too, just in your brand and your business.
And on the back end for us, it also helps us with some of the statistics, right? The numbers games that we play in ticket deflection, which is a big deal for both customer education and customer marketing, is, how do we leverage those skills to manage exactly that scenario, right? Where we get the target for the dozen questions that everybody asks every single time.
Well, and I think that brings up a good point, and I know we'll probably talk about this at some point with cross-functional stakeholder relationships. But one of the things I tell people I love about customer marketing that also is really difficult about it is you work with every department in the company. You have to work with the product team and the customer success team and the support team and the sales team and the marketing team and the professional services team and customer education. You've got to have a pulse on everything that's happening, because all of that input then helps you figure out, well, what are those questions people are asking? What problems are we trying to solve? Where are there barriers to people getting the value that they're looking for? And then how can I put something in place? How can I help to solve that problem or operationalize that thing?
And which brings us back to scale, right? Because that's what we do, right? Is we take all of that information. How do we decide who takes the lead on this, right? When we see the issue present itself in whatever way it does, how do we look at this and say, this is really something that customer marketing should take the lead on, or this is something that customer education should take the lead on? Because if we're doing this well, we're working together. We're not usually working as one. It is the rare organization where you're the customer education lead and the customer marketing lead in one person. That is rare, not impossible to have, of course, but definitely rare. But how do we make that call, right? How do we say in my weekly with Phil, my leader for customer education, which of us is going to take the lead on this?
That is a great question. That's something my customer education partner, Liz, and I talk a lot about is there's some things where there's no clear, like, this should definitely be owned by this team. This should definitely be owned by this team. And in that case, it really comes down to who can get it done. Who actually has bandwidth to work on this. And that's true with some of my other counterparts in product marketing or strategic marketing. If there are things where it could easily be done by either one of us and it would be great, well, then who has the time right now and the bandwidth and the capacity to be able to work on this? With other things, I think it's about who is best suited. And then it comes down to those, like, what are the objectives? What's the problem we're trying to solve? And where does that fit best? Is this something that needs to be a training, that needs to be, I don't know, a help article? Is this a training video, or is this more communication related where there's a breakdown and people aren't getting the right content at the right time, which maybe is more customer marketing than customer education? So I think it also depends on what falls in each function, but that's how we've done it, is figure out, does it squarely fall in one or the other? And if not, who's got the time for it?
I also ask, like, where is it going to live when it's done?
Ooh, that's a
Right.
good, yeah.
Right. If it's something that's going to live in the learning portal, then it probably should be at least initiated by customer education, because that's their realm. I don't spend it, and rightfully so. Truthfully, I shouldn't spend much time in the learning portal as much as I would love to. I just shouldn't, right? And the same is true if it's something that's going to be housed in the places where customer marketing lives, right? Is it something that should be in community? Is it something that's part of advocacy? Is it a communications thing? Is it going to be part of our website activity? And how all that launches together and does a mix, which is probably a discussion for another time as well, is really one of my bigger questions. Not just time, but where's it going to live? Because it might, if it's knowledge base and product, then let's start with the person who's going to be the one that would do it, you know, that deserves that, the accolades for the work that's done there already, right? So, and I just had another thought, but it went away. So where's your list? What's on your list that we haven't covered yet?
Let me look. All right. Okay, so this is something when I think about the two, I think they should work together. But one of the things that I had said to our internal team, and I said this about overlap with other teams too, is they should connect, but that does not always mean that everything we work on is going to be tied to each other, right? So there might be help articles that are being created that support the support team, but that I don't really have anything to do with. You know, and there's going to be projects that I work on in customer marketing that customer education doesn't have anything to do with. If I'm creating, maybe it's enablement materials or it's an advocacy program, if there isn't an educational component of that, or something where education is helping me to deliver. So there are enablement pieces that require customer training. You know, they need to be trained on how to use this. And in that case, that's a partnership with customer education. But otherwise, it's not something where what we're doing directly overlaps. And I think that's important too, is you have this overlap with other teams, you've got to collaborate, but that doesn't mean that everything that you work on should line up. And I would even argue most of the time it should not be 100% we're on the same, like we're doing all the same things, because each of your teams has different objectives. So that was something I had on here, is especially when it comes to you know, advocacy, customer marketing, thinking a lot about customer happiness and satisfaction. As a customer marketer, I've run gifting programs. That's not something that education is going to be involved with, but maybe education is like, ooh, can I do some kind of swag for my training? Or
well, and the latest thing I'm going to start out is for certification, right? If you certify in the product, then let's celebrate that, because that's my side, right? Let the celebration part is badging and gifting and accolades, right? Just pointing out through social posts and all of those other things that I can do to get the word out that you know, Amy just certified.
Yeah.
Yay, stars, you know, fireworks, the whole bit.
And that's where I think having those recurring touch points and figuring out where is it clearly owned here, clearly owned here. And I remember even doing, as a product manager on a learning product, there were two of us product managing, and one person managed the content side, and then I managed the technical side, but there was certainly overlap. And so there were things that we clearly owned, and then a lot of things that we worked on together. And it was the same idea of who is taking the lead, who is best equipped for this, who maybe has the experience or relationships for this, and we're working like that. But I really I'm like, oh, you got to just be meeting and talking constantly and then sharing your vision of the future. Because if your customer education person wasn't saying, hey, you know, we have got certifications, is there anything that we can do here? Or if you didn't have visibility into, oh, maybe there's an opportunity for social proof here. Maybe there's an opportunity for social advocacy. Maybe there's an opportunity to surprise and delight our customers and highlight what they're doing. And, or even thinking about customer marketing and storytelling for educational experiences. Like, you know, what made you take the certification and what did you learn in the process? How have you been able to apply that? Because that's a customer story too. It's not just our product, you know? So I think there's got to be a lot of insight and visibility and collaboration where even doing your planning together and thinking down the road, what do you each want to do will help you to kind of I guess, align the work that you're doing and your roadmaps over time to best serve the customer from each of your unique perspectives, what you can each bring to the table.
Exactly right. I think that the plays off of the customer life cycle quite a bit. Right? We've touched on that in a bunch of the different things that we've talked about so far, and the fact that where we are in the life cycle may also be the leading point on who's taking the lead on that activity, right? Because if it's truly onboarding, there's a point where I'm going to let the people who train the product and are working with it do their thing, because that's what they are good at, and then pick up again as we guide them through the rest of their journey in the life cycle. Then we partner again with all of those other groups, right? With services and with success and with support, because support is always that underlying current that happens in the life cycle.
For sure. It's that, yeah, when you really need somebody to respond. I was thinking, I mean, I like to think of things visually in my head. I'm terrible at translating those onto paper, but in my head, they're very vivid. Of you've kind of almost got this coach, someone who's much more hands-on helping you. And then you've kind of got someone who's maybe in the background, they're a support, they're on the sidelines cheerleading you, like parent at a soccer game, right? So you have the coach on the field, so you have the sidelines, like, you got it, like, way to go, and encouraging you to the end of the game. And then you've got those people who are coming in at different points in time. Maybe this is your referee, I don't know, who's kind of saying, okay, this is what I saw happen here. Let me help you with this thing here. And they're coming in and troubleshooting like that one particular thing, which I think our support teams do so well, is kind of being that moment in time in your moment of need, very specific question.
Right.
And
something's gone wrong, usually. So maybe they're the trainer on the soccer team, right? The one that comes in and tapes up your ankle.
Trainer, yeah. Ooh, okay. I like this. That's better than the ref. That's a better, yeah.
I'm going to take the ref as your professional services, right? When we want to do health checks, we want to do, okay, right? We want to leverage another part of the tools. We need guidance. We need help. Professional services is going to come in and give us that guidance, which is kind of what a ref does in a nicer way.
Yeah. Awesome.
Right. So I kind of like that. Maybe that's a good analogy. We might have to build that one out. I like that.
Right. This is sometimes just like, I need to see it in my head or liken it to something else so that I can make sense of the players. Yeah.
What else? You said you had your notes. What was the other?
I think that was most of it. Yeah, that they're both, I know we talked about kind of points of intersection, and I mean, when I was outlining this, you know, what is customer education, what's customer marketing, obviously both interacting with the customer, also with prospects. And when I say customer, I mean people paying you, but also people in your target market. But then throughout the customer life cycle, that they're both involved in the customer life cycle, thinking about the customer life cycle as part of what they're doing, and then supporting customers at every stage of their journey. But I think it's really like, what is the objective or problem we're trying to solve, and then who is best equipped for that. And I think a lot of, I don't know, maybe it's customer education is competence building, which leads to confidence. And then customer marketing is a little bit of like confidence building. I know, especially when people become customers, I'm constantly thinking, how can I build their confidence in this product, in this company, that we're here to support them? They have the resources that they need, you know? And so even I was walking someone through a new onboarding the other day, and I was like, the reason we framed this way is because we want people to know once they sign up to work with us, you're in good company, you're in good hands. Other people trust us. We're, you know, a tried and true company. You've made a great decision. It's all of that. And then like a lot of that customer education too of, I see customer education as an extension of our product. I tell people our customer success is not just about what our product does. It's what our customer success and our support team, our implementation team, our customer education, like all these additional things that I'm doing with customer enablement. Those are all ways that we help our customers to be successful too. And just like highlighting those and surfacing those to people. So there's a lot of people doing great things and creating great content and serving the customer in different ways at different points in their life cycle. And I'm just thinking, how do I highlight these? How do I surface these? How do I help customers to see
right?
what's—
How do we bring it to everybody's attention at the right point in time, right? When they need it.
Yeah.
So if we had to say the three most important things that we've talked about, yeah. Oh, the first one I think really is scale, right? That we just have to say number one is scale.
Yeah.
And then
Scale
number two, yeah.
and those other teams for sure.
Yeah. So that's number two, right? Number two is the interaction. It's
Mhm.
not just customer experience. Well, I guess it is, right? It's customer education and customer marketing together enhance all of those other parts of the customer experience, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
And then the third one would be,
You just got to stay in constant communication. Like
right?
not just making sure you're on the same page, trending in the same direction, you're marrying your visions of the future. That's, I think, just constant communication is something I have found immensely important in the collaborative role between customer marketing and customer education.
Exactly. And that wraps up our very first episode. So we will see you next time. Part two.
Let me just, someone called and I just want to see what they said. Oh, okay, just 2:30 work.
2:30 is almost is
13 minutes from now.
you want to record the other one later? We can always do the second recording later.
Yeah, if that's okay. This is a meeting I've been
Okay.
trying to schedule for like months.
Yeah, that's fine because we got started a little bit. We did the chatty thing up front. All right, I'm going to stop this recording then. And I'll build it out